Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar session. Sorry for the delay, very sincere apologies. There has been some technical glitch, so we had to connect a little late. But we're here. Thank you so much for all the participants who have logged in. If you can see us and hear us, please type in the chat box that we are visible and audible. Before we go on with the session, I'd like to check with the technicality. Is everybody in the participants group, are you able to hear me? You can just type in the chat box and say yes. There's Lokesh, there's Mr. Sachin Kamath and Dr. Pushkala. Are you guys here? Anybody who's waiting? All right, Dr. Pushkala says it's visible but audio not too clear. Anyways, I think there's some technical difficulty today at Medvarsity. I'm sure it'll settle down over time. Our IT people are on it. Thank you so much for confirming, Dr. Pushkala. So welcome all of you. We're live now. So on the other side, joining me in this clinical nutrition webinar is our Chief Dietitian from Apollo Health City, Jubilee Hills, Hyderabad, Mrs. Harita Sham. Harita, welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to everyone.
And I already see a group of participants who've been waiting for this session. So we'll go ahead with the session. So before we go ahead, participants, as I mentioned, Harita Sham is our Chief Dietitian from our Apollo Health City, Jubilee Hills, and she's a registered dietitian as well. And I'm sure she will go on to explain what that means in the session ahead. So Harita, would you like to begin the session by addressing what is dietetics and clinical nutrition basically?
Yeah. So I think nutrition is a very vast subject. And then there are different facets to it. You have research in nutrition, you have teaching in nutrition, and you have also trade or general practice in nutrition. In hospitals, we primarily pronounce it to dietetics, and it is more medical nutrition therapy that we practice in the hospitals. So it's more disease specific, it is individualized, and it's primarily for those who are hospitalized or have some kind of disease pattern.
Right, Harita. So if we talk about dietetics and clinical nutrition more as a science or as a subject of study, how do you think nutrition is important as a science, and how is it a science, and why is it important to study nutrition as a subject for anybody?
Yeah, I think like any other medical stream, nutrition also needs to be understood in depth. Now, when we study nutrition, we're just not talking about the food and the calorie content of food or the in-depth understanding of the food itself, but we need to understand the entire physiology, the disease pattern, and why it occurs, the biochemistry of it, etc. So, unless you understand the immediate understanding of the medical condition, you will not be able to prescribe nutrition per se. In fact, this is one of the glitches that we have, that almost everybody seems to be practicing nutrition. By reading about it or by having a passion for it. It's right to have a passion, but there is a need to qualify yourself adequately so that you are a qualified dietitian or a qualified nutritionist who is handling patients, and then their whole life could depend on it.
Right, Harita. So what is the place of nutrition or dietetics in today's healthcare, if we want to talk about? What is the place of nutrition in today's healthcare and the place of a nutritionist in today's healthcare?
Yeah, I think we have evolved and come a long way in terms of the practice being recognized and becoming mandatory. Somewhere, I think in 2005 or so, we at Apollo started out with the JCI being mandatory that every patient needs to be seen by the interdisciplinary team, which involves not only a doctor and a nurse, but also a dietitian, a physiotherapist, and a social worker as well. And then today, if you see almost our Indian system also says, wherein we have the NABH. NABH also makes it mandatory that these 5 specialties are the ones who are going to counsel the patient, take care of the patient, and advise them how to take care of them. Right? So it becomes an integral part of medical therapy. And when we're taking care of sick patients, it's no longer called nutrition in the broader term, it's called therapy, it's called medical nutrition therapy. So to understand medical nutrition therapy, you need to have a very qualified person who understands the entire science behind it, who understands the medical conditions, and therefore will be able to appropriately advise the required food intake or nutrition for the patient.
Right, Harpreet, you rightly mentioned how nutrition has come a long way and now how it's intricately woven into the healthcare industry. So, if we want to address and talk about what is it all that is studied in a degree or a diploma or a fellowship in nutrition, what is the study all about? What does the student get to learn in a program that's about nutrition or dietetics? What is it that needs to be learned?
Yeah, apart from understanding the nutritive value in terms of macronutrients, micronutrients, and all the elements, levels, etc., you also definitely need to understand food nutrition biochemistry. You need to understand a little bit of food microbiology and definitely physiology. So if you understand all these three, you can integrate your entire advice into one advice and then you get to the patient. So all this may be at the background, but you need to know all this for being able to get to your observation.
Right. And you're presently the chief dietitian at Apollo Health City, one of the largest corporate setups of hospitals that we have here in Hyderabad and also in country. So you being a nutritionist there, can you explain what is a typical day of work for you in a healthcare setup like Apollo? What is it like? If the students would obviously want to know if they want to pursue this, in case they want to see a career as a nutritionist. Now yours is one part of it wherein you are placed in a corporate, but can you still describe what is a typical day of work?
Yeah, I think it doesn't really differ whether it is a corporate or a smaller setup. The work pattern of the always remain the same. Wherein you're not doing only one thing. It is multi-pronged, it is very dynamic. Just yesterday I was speaking to one of our trainers and they were explaining challenges which a young dietitian would face because no day is similar to the next day. Each time you have the dynamism of having to talk to a nurse, understand how you find, talk to a doctor, different patient, different doctors, different nurses. Then you have to translate the whole thing, make a clear plan, and then translate that to FMD or food service management person in simple terms so that he then is able to deliver exactly what you want him to deliver. So it's very dynamic. Apart from nutritional planning, which will come as part of your documentation, you also have to do food service management. You have to have a complete overview of the food service department. They need to be reporting to you. We usually are reporting to you so that every food that is going to the patient is prescribed by a dietitian. If it is an accredited hospital like a JCI accredited hospital or an NABH accredited hospital, every order needs to be a written order because verbal orders are usually miscommunicated. I will say D, somebody might hear B. I might say 304, somebody might hear it as 204, and therefore every order should be in a written format because food is like medicine. That much equal importance is given. So the way you have to give the right medicine to the patient, similarly you have to give the right food to the patient. And therefore, apart from your counseling, taking care of the patient food while they're in the hospital, you also need to do food service management, which is the difficult and the most tricky part because it's not only planning the meal, but also managing a lot of people in the food service department. So you need to have a hand of that. At the end, you should also be equipped when the patient is going home as well. To be able to counsel him on the nutritional care process that he needs to follow when he goes back at home. If need be, we should be able to handle, if not all the patients, at least a few of them who really need that kind of a handholding and care. So if you say like they're rice teeth feeding or they're in home teaching or they're in a condition say like dialysis where they need to come back to the hospital repeatedly. And extended hand-holding during the convalescence is also very important. It gives you a satisfaction that yes, I've been able to handhold, get them walking, get them to normal, and then help their
Right. That sounds like a very exhaustive day of work, but I'm sure it's exciting and like you've been explaining, it has its own challenges, but the way you want to work around them is what is exciting about the profession. And also, Harita, now nutrition has become as much a global science in its own. So if somebody is looking at a career or pursuing a degree in nutrition to formally take this up as a career, who should be taking this as a career? Who are the people ideal and who should be looking at this course? What is your idea about who should come for this program? Like if we are talking about a PG Diploma in Dietetics and Clinical Nutrition, there are many participants in the chat box that they're asking things about. Would you like to address the question about who should look at this program and who should choose this as a career?
I think all those who want to take up nutrition as a career most certainly should upgrade their knowledge beyond the basic level. So those who have done their BSc nutrition, those who are passionate want to take this forward as a career, should do a master's program, whether it is a diploma program, whether it is an online program, whether it is a full-fledged master's program. They should equip themselves with this so that they learn advanced nutrition or advanced dietetics. What I have seen with the BSc level, they are not very clear. They learn the basics, but they are not very, very clear about it and are extremely uncomfortable or not so comfortable handling patients. And then also do some clinical internship or apprenticeship so that they see others handling and then they learn from it and they're more comfortable actually handling patients themselves.
So Harita, what you're essentially saying is that our PG Diploma program can help them build that basic level of training in nutrition and dietetics, and maybe then they'll have to take it from there to pursue their masters or their further education to master the nutrition. So this can be that stepping stone for them, is what you're saying.
If they are already from a nutrition background, they can use this as a PG Diploma course and take it forward. If they are new to the subject, I see that a lot of people are new to the subject, have a passion towards nutrition and looking at beginning somewhere. And there also it can be utilized as a stepping stone. They get a feel of the subject, they know what all the topics that they have to study. They can begin with this and then sky the limit in terms of taking it forward in terms of a medical program, master's program, or even a PhD program.
Okay, so our eligibility criteria is very clear. We talk about how BSc graduates, any science graduates can come forward to learn about nutrition, as well as other medicine and allopathic medicine and parallel medicine graduates as well. But having said that, as you've mentioned rightly, if they have some nutritional background already, maybe then they can use this as an upgrading course and go forward. But otherwise, you suggest that they take up some master's program after this.
Yeah, usually if they're especially wanting to work in a hospital, a master's program will be of help. What I have seen is that those students who go there only have a background of nutrition and use this PG Diploma, they're pretty much comfortable. And if they add a 6 months internship or a 3 months internship, they actually will be able to handle patient diets.
Right.
If they're absolutely new to the topic, I think we should use this as a first premise for familiarizing themselves and also take up a master's program because they not have the basic education.
Right. Now, Harita, if you want to address about what are the career prospects that our prospective students can look at if they want to study nutrition, not just our program. If somebody is trying to study nutrition as a program, and be it a basic level course or a graduate level program or a master's program. Can you talk about what are the different career prospects in today's world for a nutritionist?
I think the career prospects have really grown now. Very recently, I read in the newspaper that every restaurant has been ordered by FSSAI to have a caloric value of the menu. So I'm sure there will be a lot more coming opportunities opening up. Right now, there are, apart from hospital-based work, there are research opportunities, there are teaching opportunities, there are opportunities in weight loss clinics. One can actually set up their own. And I was just discussing just before coming here that the hospital wants to build up a BPO and that also has a tremendous work from home opportunities. In fact, if you look for online work, some amount of online work from home is also available now in nutrition where they're attached to platforms and then you handle them either on Skype or in telephone. So I see the opportunities growing a lot. In fact, last week when I was at Marina Degree College, one of the local PG colleges. They said their entire college was running on nutrition, on the nutrition-based students rather than other faculty. So yes, it's definitely catching up. It's good for you to begin with. It's good for you. You can apply it to yourself, your family, your all your friends and colleagues, and then you can also take it forward as a career choice. Even if you're not working full time, you could choose to work part time. That's the beauty of this career, and it's an evergreen career like any other career.
Right, Harita, I think you brought out the correct point. Now, even if somebody is not exactly looking at pursuing it as a career, but I'm a clinician myself. Now, I can see from the way you're explaining how a training in nutrition can help me build my own practice, only to add up that extra training to it and also apply it to our own selves and our own families. So I think that's a very good thought that you put forward, not just for pursuing nutrition as a career, but also to add up to our existing careers as well, to apply it. That's a wonderful thing that you have brought up. So, Harita, if somebody is interested in getting trained, there's a question by Mr. Sachin Kamath here who wants to know, are non-science graduates with fellowship in applied nutrition eligible for PG Diploma in clinical nutrition and dietetics? Is there a clinical relevance to this?
Eligibility wise, they might be eligible. I'm not sure that. I think you will be able to answer better. With non-science students might find it difficult to understand, they have a commerce background, a chemistry background. I feel it will be very difficult for them to really understand and take the whole science forward.
Yeah. Now, also from my end, I'd like to say, Mr. Sachin, he's talking about the fellowship in applied nutrition in comparison with the PG Diploma in clinical nutrition and dietetics. He has questioned this because the eligibility criteria for applied nutrition is now any graduates, because it's a 6 months comprehensive program. But all of us should understand, like the point Harita has just mentioned, how nutrition can be made a part of our own careers and study and our own families and our own training process if we just want to upgrade ourselves in the field of nutrition. I think that's where applied nutrition comes to place. But if you're talking about postgraduate diploma in dietetics and clinical nutrition, I think this is a little more divergent. That is why the eligibility criteria have been narrowed down. We mentioned that any BSc Life Sciences graduates and any medicine graduates or alternate medicine graduates should prefer to get into this program. Like Harita has rightly mentioned, the background actually forms the base and platform for any clinical or medical program, and nutrition is a part of medicine. So I think that's the difference between the two programs. So let's not get confused there. So Mr. Sachin, but then that's what I'm trying to explain. He says he has experience in medical transcription. Now we are totally going away into different things. Medical transcription and coding is a different subject. Nutrition is a different subject. Medicine as such is a different subject. Of course, all these things are correlated and function together in a setup maybe. But if you're looking at being a nutritionist, like Harita is talking about a career in nutrition, you want to be a nutritionist, I think you need to have that science background, and you need to have some basic level graduate training in science and medicine. If not medicine, at least some life sciences. That's what I'm specifying. So that becomes easy, and that is the right way to take up a upskilling program like this, a PG diploma, and then make a career out of it, or rather, you want to make a difference in patients' lives. So that's the reason for it. I think I've answered your question, Mr. Sachin. Right. So Harita, from this question, I'd like to pick up a question from my own thought process. Like, we see many clinicians also getting into these programs these days. Allopathic medicine and even alternate medicine clinicians, because now, as you've mentioned, nutrition has become an essential part of our clinical therapy now. There is a medical nutrition therapy that you've defined. So can you address this for the clinicians who are in the participants chat box, how this can make a difference to their practice?
Yeah, I think clinicians, those who are practicing, say, fitness experts, physiotherapists, these people can actively take it on because it completely widens their scope. Every patient who comes is today not satisfied only with the medical prescription. They want an overall wellness prescription coming away from the doctor. So the doctor will be equipped to talk a little bit more in depth about nutrition, and probably a little bit about fitness. So if these are the connected fields. You have fitness experts, physios, dietitians, and a clinician who's doing a practice can actually benefit tremendously by arming themselves with nutrition knowledge and be more confident when they are. Today, when a physician talks about diet, they give you a brief overview. They are able to give you a brief overview, but they're not able to give you an in-depth prescription. And usually that's when the reference starts happening or a referral basis starts happening if the patient wants to know a little more, or if the doctor feels that he needs an in-depth analysis and understanding of the nutritional practices that he's following. So yes, those who have the medical background, it would be a great help.
Right, Harita. I think you answered already a question that Dr. Pushkala has posted here. She says, I'm a pediatrician. Will nutrition course help me in my OPD practice or IP? So,
yeah, I think for a pediatrician it is mandatory because our pediatrician says that more than medical questions, the mothers bombard them with growth and development questions.
Right.
So it is apt for a pediatrician, I can say.
Yeah, and it's rightly so what Dr. Pushkala has asked. Now you've mentioned about pediatricians and babies. For kids especially, all of us, the first thing we want to ask and talk about since the baby is born is what should we feed them, right? Yeah. How much should I feed and when should I start this and when should I stop that, And women will identify with this very easily. So I think that's a very good point. So Dr. Pushkala, yes, that can really add value to your practice, both in OPD and of course in IP as well. So this is why we've addressed the issue for clinicians, how this can make a difference to your clinical practice. I think the same applies to almost every clinical specialty because every clinical specialty deals with its own set of diseases and disorders, which have their own kinds of disease-specific treatment modalities. So am I correct, Harita?
Yeah, absolutely. In situations say like diabetic management, part of the management is nutritional management. If you have gastro disorders, you definitely need to address nutritional management, saying gastro. Otherwise, the problem that they are having could be recurrent, could be more damaging to them. So let's say an example of a liver patient. If you cannot address his nutritional deficiencies, you can never improve on his prognosis, you can never delay his mortality. Reason is similar. In a pre-dialysis condition, nutrition is one of the mainstays in preventing and delaying dialysis. So you should be able to place yourself. In fact, going forward, I think it is going to be about nutritional specialization. So you have a diabetic dietitian, you have a renal dietitian, you have an electrical care dietitian. In the hospital right now, we already have that. We have one who's dedicated to oncology, then we have one who's dedicated to critical care, one who's dedicated to the sugar clinics, the one who's dedicated to health check, one who's dedicated to the inpatient services and the in-house services. Apart from that, we also have now the transplant dietitian. Right. So it is beginning, it is budding into branches now. And going forward, I think like medical specialization, we will have to focus and remind ourselves into one area that we have expertise in.
Yes, Harita, you've brought up the right point, and Dr. Pushkala has led us in the right direction now for discussion. I remember being a clinician myself, and now that you've mentioned diabetes, I see a lot of diabetes patients. So how much of an importance is given to the diet and nutrition is what you see in the charts that we give the patients. The first thing is always diet. And even with OHAs and insulin therapies, diet is very much an essential part of a diabetic therapy. And I remember talking to you, Harita, personally during my own pregnancy about the right kind of diet for each trimester. So I know how these things can make a difference. If it's so for our own selves, then how much more difference can this be made in our own practices as clinicians or whoever it is? So I can see the right connections here. So for all the participants who are here for some answers, Dr. Harita has let you know how for clinicians this can make a difference. So I want to take more Q&A. So participants, if you have any specific questions that you want to ask, as I've been mentioning, Harita Sham is our chief dietitian from Apollo Jubilee Hills. So I'm sure she'll be the right person to guide you in case you're looking at a career in this or trying to pursue this program. So please post some questions in the chat box so that we can take up some Q&A. So there is Lokesh, who's joined in from Indore, with Jyotsna, Vandana and Sona, all from Dietetics department at Apollo, Indore.
I'm a little surprised with that myself. I wonder what is it further that they want to know, but maybe I'm not sure if they're dietitians or students.
Yeah.
I'd also be interested in understanding why they've joined the program.
I think Lokesh is our person from there, but the Dietetics department from Apollo, Indore has also joined in. So hello to all of you. So if there are any questions that you want to post, I wouldn't know what you're doing there in the dietetics department, so I wouldn't know how to address. So, but if there's anything that you want to know, you want to ask.
It's more or less similar to what they're doing, Shravani. I know the dietitian there. Vidhi is a dietitian. She's a counterpart there. Probably they're all as part of her team. I'm not sure, maybe as students, and they have some parents they're welcome to ask.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you for joining in, guys. So if you can post some questions that you want to ask Harita, she'd be happy to answer. So before I get some questions, so maybe I would want to brief both our programs to our participants and for any prospective students. We have one fellowship in applied nutrition program, which is a 6 months program. And as all of you know, and for those who do not, Medvarsity offers a blended learning platform. So this is an online learning, e-learning programs that we offer. So the fellowship in applied nutrition is open for any graduates, but this is a 6 months comprehensive program. This is not a really in-depth training or program or anything. It's very comprehensive, so you've got to understand that. On the other hand, the PG Diploma in Clinical Dietetics and Nutrition is a 1-year program with a little more exhaustive learning modules and training involved. But the eligibility criteria for this is BSc graduates in any discipline, MBBS, BHMS, or any other alternate medicine, and even general home science with students who've had some science background in their higher educations and 12th and so. So if you have some life sciences connect there, then maybe we can have a case-to-case discussion and get you into the program. That's for PG Diploma in Dietetics and Clinical Nutrition, and this is a 1-year program. So as Harita has been mentioning, if you're somebody who's out of the science arena, maybe you should pick up FAN first, applied nutrition, and upgrade yourselves and see how it can help you. But if you're somebody with a medical background, so we think maybe you should try out the postgraduate diploma in dietetics and clinical nutrition. And also if you're interested in pursuing the career as well. So before we close on, Harita, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, I just want to address about the different career options that I've been seeing nutritionists and dietitians be placed in these days. Apart from being part of healthcare and hospital setups and clinics, I've been seeing these individual practitioners as well, who've been becoming these nutritional consultants. The many people whom we find in the articles in newspapers or writing columns who run their own consultancy firms and things like that. So nutrition has become almost a practitioner in its own. So which is kind of new here and picking up. I think it's been there in the West for quite long. So you can be an individual consultant as well, if I'm not wrong, Harita. Is that true?
Yeah, you can be an individual consultant, have a practice, clinic, do it from home, attach yourself to different platforms. These days, web-based platforms are plenty. You get your clients from there, and then, as I said, you could either do a Skype or you could do international clients as well. When you have been doing it, that I have done a few of live programs on television. When we do that, we get a lot of international calls. They want to know about different practices, and probably their access to dietitian being aware of the Indian diet is very limited. We can actually build that as well.
Yeah, so one is how you can be a part of a healthcare as a nutritionist, like Harita has been mentioning, and you can be a private consultant. And one more thing I've been seeing these days, and all of us are aware now about these wellness clubs and spas and wellness centers that have come up along attached with the healthcare systems. I think there are individual wellness centers as well. And these health clubs and, these fitness clubs, they're all, I think, having a nutritionist in their team, I'm sure. So even
vertically, it comes under that is growing up as a wellness industry, and we call them wellness dietitians.
Right.
So those who work in the hospital will be clinical dietitians. those who work as independent consultants or in clinic or in clinics, they are mostly wellness dietitians. So they do a lot of weight loss, general good health, keeping up, maintaining your blood sugars, etc. The slight difference is when the person is very sick, ICU based in the hospital, then the dietitian takes care of them.
So, as we've talked about, there's so many titles and so many varied career positions that are available, and this is a lucrative industry in terms of how vast it is. If you talk about healthcare or wellness or everything is a big thing today, and there's so much to be done. And I think we need a lot of trained workforce, even as you've been mentioning, properly trained people and who've gone through the programs, either graduate or postgraduate programs. Proper training in nutrition is what you've been advocating from the beginning. So I think there's a lot of scope for this in terms of career, and as well as if you're looking at a training program as well. So for all the participants out there, we've made our best efforts to address all the concerns regarding our program and also in nutrition in general. So for any more questions and queries, you can surely reach out to us. You can write to us, to Medvarsity. I'm sure if there are any specific queries, Harita would be happy to answer. She's apparently the nutrition expert in Hyderabad, like her Gmail title. So you can reach out and we'll definitely try and answer your queries. So for anybody interested in joining the program, I've mentioned fellowship in applied nutrition for any graduate in general, but for science graduates and clinicians, it's PG Diploma in Dietetics and Clinical Nutrition. For any further queries, please reach out to us. And thank you so much, Harita, for joining us today.
Thank you. Enjoyed doing the session myself. Thank you.
And for all the participants, apologies for the technical glitch. Maybe next time we can have a better session. We hope to see you again sometime soon. We'll be doing these webinars a little more often now. So if you have any prospects, do wait out for our mailer for the next webinar. Thank you so much and bye for now.